Hi, I'm Chris Palmore, and welcome to GratitudeSpace Radio. As you guys can see from the banner behind me, this is a birthday gratitude episode, and I've got my friend Flo on the line here in Austria. So, how you doing, Flo?
Hi, how are you? I'm good.
Good, man.
How's it going over there?
It's good, man. It's been a wonderful day. Got up early, really productive. My wife and I went and got our first vaccination shot, so
Oh,
things are good, man.
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Congratulations.
How are things there? So it's your evening right now, right? You said it's 7 p.m.
Yeah,
there, right?
it's 6 p.m. here in southern Austria. I'm in the house of my parents in Carinthia, beautiful landscape here. And yeah, it's getting dark soon. So and things are quite well here. It's like nearly like everywhere, lockdown, not lockdown, semi-lockdown. Vaccination is going on, so but I'm positive and yes, I'm already through actually with Corona. I contracted COVID, but I get through it, and that's also a good thing. So I'm very positive.
That's excellent, man. Well, I thought it was fun. You said that before we got started, you said it took COVID, for us to have a conversation. Is what you said, which that's true and not true. It took this situation for me to start a podcast and eventually do birthday gratitude conversations, which led me to seeing that you had a birthday, which was an excuse for me to go, hey, let me get Flo on a conversation so we can have a little one-on-one, being that you said it was 2015 the last time we actually saw each other.
Yes, this was a really beautiful moment, and ironically, as I would put it, that it takes a pandemic with all this zooming and electric devices and internet devices to talk to you in directly, not just texting. So when I think back to this moment when we met each other in 2015, this is really a moment of gratitude because I stayed in a hostel. I was a researcher. I'm a historian, and I did some research in College Park near DC, and we met in this Washington hostel, and we had a great time, really great time. And I'm so grateful that we stood in contact, and that on my birthday, some 6 years afterwards, we can even talk directly live here.
Me too, man. I was thinking about that earlier about in DC, and that was, I'd done my thing in New York, and I just had a stop in DC and just randomly picked. I was just going on my phone and randomly picked this hostel, and honestly, I remember very little about the hospital. I remember meeting you, and I feel like we in a nice sized room with bunks. I don't even. Funny thing is, like, I have very little memory of the actual place, but I do remember meeting you. Like that's what I remember about DC. I remember that, and then I got some gratitude videos in the park there.
Yeah, there's the concept. As a historian, I read a lot, and one thing is there are mental landscapes. There's a point in a city where you combine a positive emotion with it, and it sticks in your brain. And I have the same. And it was also for me a moment of gratitude because this hostel momentum at this time or in these years, I went 4 times to the US for research, and I was rather not established, but I was already postdoctorate or doctorate. And during this time, I could afford also a hotel or at least a bed and breakfast, but I always chose hostels for 80% of the stays, because exactly the reason why we are here is that you randomly picked the hostel and I chose a hostel in that time. And when you stay with other folks, you make new connections, you see new faces, meet interesting people, and that's the reason why I'm here today with you, or tonight here.
Right. That makes me think of like we were talking before, like, productive accident. Us meeting was obviously a productive accident because you were researching your book and you were doing it in DC, and you chose a hostel, and I was coming back from my gratitude work in New York, and that was something I was working on, and then I just chose a hostel, and then, like you said, then we met because we just happened to be. It's an amazing thing when you look back. It's like, you're not from this country, you're from Austria, and I'm not from DC, right? I'm from Kentucky, but somehow we ended up at the same place at the same time for different reasons and just connected. And I remember I was sharing, you were sharing what you were doing, and I was sharing my, letters of gratitude. And I specifically remember you going, oh, I was working on a project, you were working on a project where you were tracking people writing gratitude letters. And I was like, wow, it was such an amazing thing to like meet somebody that was working on something very similar in this place.
That's true. Actually, I also work for the church here in Austria, in the cultural field, and also with young people for the university chaplaincy and so on, and for galleries. And during that time, we had a nice project. It was called in German Landkarte der Herzensanliegen, a map of heartfelt moments or something. It would be in English. Map of emotions of the heart, that go to the heart. And people were able to pinpoint certain places, like we would pinpoint our hostels for our friendship, and write either digitally or the old way, a moment of gratitude or of joy or of emotion. And it was so, I met you, and you were working on this long time gratitude project, and I was involved in this short time project. That I thought there's so many layers of not just friendship and chance, but also layers of karma, whatever you call it. It was just beautiful. And I remember this moment well. And when I returned, I if I remember well, you even pinpointed also your name and emotion, or I brought it back to Austria. So it was quite beautiful on many levels.
Yeah, I agree, and I remember seeing that and just going, wow, I was really impressed by it, and I love the idea of, I mean, the whole thing is with gratitude, it's remembering, right? It's like remembering, and obviously it's nice to go, I love my home, which is right here in the moment, right? But what about like, a couple of, like when I had dinner with my dad, right? That's a memory, right? We have memories of people in these places, and in any way that we can like trigger that memory, right? Like it's just a moment of gratitude. We're allowed to sit back in to that place. And that's what I loved. I loved that you guys had already put something together where people were using it and making these places in a map of where gratitude was being found and being shared. It was it's inspirational, man.
Yeah, what was also inspirational for me, as you said, you mentioned that I went on with my books, after the research stage, and I always saw in the internet and on Facebook, social media, how GratitudeSpace and your project evolved, and I'm quite impressed. And right now, you even wrote a book or made an anthology. This is also so beautiful to see. So, in some small way, you're part of it. You're one moment that popped up in this whole project, and you can, because I'm more on the optimistic side, even in these times here, you can see so many beautiful projects that are popping up in the internet right now. And the very fact that we are able to catch up in that way is just gorgeous. I'm really grateful for it.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, I wanted to share a little more gratitude for you. I when I went on my Punching Depression tour, you donated to my crowdfunding campaign. I remember that. I really appreciated that. And
yeah.
And then when the book came out, you said that you were going to check it out, which I really appreciated too. So it's I appreciate you saying that you're seeing things happen. Unless somebody tells me, I mean, I know a lot has evolved since we met. Like, geez, when we met, I feel like I had just shot my first couple of videos in New York, probably like 2 days before. Since then having that bigger cross country where there were hundreds of videos, and then, the podcast, and then, the book. And then I've actually got another book coming out at the end of next month. So, just a lot. Yeah. It's been a wild time, man. Like a crazy 6 years. So what, here on your birthday though, in retrospect, what are, your last year, what are some things that came up or some people that may have popped in, things you're grateful for, and some thoughts?
Yeah, it was a weird year. It was 2020, right? Or exactly 1 year of pandemic. But a few things that popped up when this avalanche of COVID came in or arrived. In the first days, like many people, there was a lot of gratitude, walking, having more time with family and kids, and And I live outside of Graz, so it's the second biggest city of Austria, but I live quite in a village type setting with a lot of green and lush forests, and actually firsthand I felt some, not relief, but it was okay. It's getting a little bit more slow right now. You can have a walk, you can spend more time with your family. And in the summer, my third history book came out. I write on Austrian refugees who during World War II went to the US and helped the US Army or the propaganda or intelligence services there in the common fight against Hitler. And this is a very energetic project because it's about people. You know, people are living in a very difficult time, and this working on this, doing research on people who went through really hardships, losing people in the Holocaust, fleeing your country, starting over again, an ocean far away. You know, that knowing this and having insight in this stories and life-changing events, that helped me also a little bit maybe in my worldview. So during this pandemic here, I had a lot of positive moments. So even when the euphoria, let's so to speak, of the beginning of March and April vanished, especially in autumn when it became colder, the second wave of COVID was here in Austria. My book came out, so some energy you spread, you know, and you, in a small way, you're also part of it. During my mental map of book research and book genesis, you're part of it. And also all these biographies of the people I write on, all these refugees who had the courage to do something, to change, to fight in a useful cause, so to speak. So I always try to focus on these things, that crises are going to end, that you can even take something out. Not always it was working, as I mentioned at the very beginning. I contracted COVID on my own in the end of October, and even my parents had it. But the positive thing is, you saw my father before preparing the room here. Both of my parents are through it, and it looks good. And this was, I admit it, this was a hard time, because with me in Austria, the isolation rules are way tougher than it used to be in the US in November. And it was tough for the family. So it was really, and therefore I'm really grateful also for the support of my kids and my wife, Katja. And this was, I admit, it's not always, you cannot always muddle through with optimism. That's not possible. But after this short break or hiatus, the year took a very productive and positive end. And it was a hell of a ride in some way. But I'm really grateful for 2020 and the beginning of 21. So I'm turning 42 this day, this time. And there are some things to come, and I'm very positive, so to speak.
I love that, man. Your perspective is such a huge part of gratitude, you know, and when you speak about these people that you were studying and writing about, you know, and having these people having the courage to go off into places of danger for the better good, like it just puts, like you said, just puts everything in perspective, you know, like what's a hard life really look like, right? Opposed to what do we think a hard life is, right? Because personally, obviously, for example, if you grew up as like a prince, you know, or like a king, if you had to go work in the field for a day, that would be your hell, right? Like that would, but it's not, it's just work, right? It's you know, perspective. I read a really great book. I think it was called Shackleton's Adventure. I'm messing it up, but it's a true story about about an Antarctic a expedition to go through Antarctica back, I think it was in 1920.
Oh,
and it's called the guy that ran the ship, his name was Shackleton. I can't think of anyways, okay. So basically it's a true story, and you'll appreciate this. A guy named Thor. So had just a little backstory. On the productive accidents podcast, my friend Peter brought his friend Thor on. Now Thor has been traveling the world, not using a plane for the last 7 years. His thing was he's going to go to every country in the world without going home, staying one day, not taking a plane, right? He had 6, I think we had 6 countries left. And he got stuck in Hong Kong, where he's been for the last 14 months. Yeah. So anyways, you can only imagine the stories he has, right? I remember talking to him, and he's like, I'm reading this book about these guys who get stuck in the middle of Antarctica. They have to leave the boat, and there's still 1,400 miles, whatever it is to get to and it's a true story because some of these people did survive, and there's a book about it. But he's like, it just puts me into perspective. I'm stuck in Hong Kong, real problems are people stuck in the middle of Antarctica. It's like you want to put perspective in, it's even a great phrase too was, our parents had, our grandparents had to go off to war. Like, we have to stay home. Like that's like our call to duty, right?
That's our challenge of our time some way. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And when you talk about productive accidents, in my work, I will not dwell long on this, but in my work for the church, we work with young people. I host events, I coordinate events in cultural fields and so on. And there's always a lot of thinking about how do we reach people. And then COVID came in, and you have to shift swiftly to Zoom and to creative ideas. And we had one event, I know, where we did not reach the audience. They had to come, but they were not here emotionally. And during COVID, we discovered that when we change the turn of the event, the character of the event, when we have smaller groups that are going through because of COVID, we cannot gather 200 people in one room.
Right.
So we shifted to smaller groups at this very event, smaller groups that are interacting at getting the information more directly. And so we had really, you saw that being forced to change, to be creative, it was an accident. COVID is an accident, but it turned out that the output was quite higher, so people could be reached more easily. There was more small talk going on, and we had a outside event with a DJ and art and so on, and get together. And the folks stayed also afterwards. They were more likely to stay, and that's what I also would call a productive accident. Yeah, you're forced out of your comfortable shell, and then you something completely new evolves, and it's important to grasp the energy, to try. You can fail, obviously, but I like this status of productive accident when it's in the making, because you do not know how it evolves. And I like this. And so as I said, it was a hell of a ride this year, but there were so many new ideas and new concepts are coming through. So we should go on like this.
Yeah, I mean, just with me and the podcast, speaking like right now, what's happening is a productive accident. Just having this podcast, because I initially, when I met you 6 years ago, I think after I met you, I recorded 4 podcast episodes. But my mindset was, it was all about how many listens it's going to get. Like my whole thing was like, I was bending it on like how many people listen to this. And because I released it and nobody listened, I completely was deflated, and I just moved on. You know what I mean? And because this last year, that was before I did that's before GratitudeSpace launched. That's before my tours. That's before all the videos. But fast forward, I after that point, I did dozens of interviews, gratitude interviews. And so this last year, I was like, well, look, I'm going to launch a podcast. And I said, I'm just going to have 12 conversations and see what happens. I'm not putting any pressure on anything happening, right? I can't let myself down. It was like it was just like, okay, I have a checkbox. I have 12 checkbox. I'm going to interview 12 people and just see what happens, right? Again, just going through just it's a experiment. Honestly, anything you haven't done before is an experiment. And my outcome was just, I have to do the 12, right? It was just like, I'm going to do this thing 12 times. Like, it's almost like a repetition. It's like, I'm going to go to the gym 12 times. And because I decided that it wasn't about the numbers and it was just about, let's do this, right? This experience, I realized after 12 of them, I was like, wow, I really love this. I was like, this conversation is where it is. And the metaphor came to me as like, the conversation is the cake. The icing I get to share it, but I just want to eat more cake, right? So I was like, how do I do that? Because I can't have long form interviews where I read people's books. I can't do that 2 or 3 times a week. So it's like, okay, what can I do? Well, I can do a birthday podcast, And the amazing thing about doing it was like the second birthday podcast I did, it got more listens than the other one, and actually the other ones, and that made sense because the people I'm interviewing are on podcasts all the time. So, for example, when they share something, their friends already know their story. They're not tuning in. You know what I mean? But when somebody that's not normally doing it shares that, they're going to listen to it. And that was just an accident.
Yeah, cool. And what I see right now in this concept of birthday gratitude podcast or birthday gratitude, it's also in some way you have the fixed data. That means you have some points where you can pin to, and people are also in a certain mood. They are reflecting. Maybe you ask me right now, how's your year and so on. And this is it's not just a symbol. It's the perfect time to pick people up emotionally, I think. So it's a cool idea. Huh?
Thanks, man. Yeah, with me, I'm just looking. I do love it. It comes from when I wrote my letter to my mother on my birthday and gave it to her. So it springs right back to like the origins of my gratitude journey, and it's so there's a lot of great things. With a podcast like this, it's very casual and it has a purpose. Like it has it's very focused. So it's like, okay, it's someone's birthday. I'm going to ask them who in their life they're grateful for. And then hopefully I'm going to have a great conversation, but then hopefully whoever they are saying they're grateful for, they're going to share it with. Like so right now we create this moment. I call it gratitude art, right? You share about people you care about in your life. And then my hope is that you're going to share that with them. It becomes like a gift to them. So it's got the full spectrum, and it's simple and fun. And I love it.
Yeah. Yes, I see. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, with this accident though, like, when I was in the mindset of how can I do this more often, that's where like when I met Peter, I was like, we should do a podcast together, which is the one you kept the Productive Accidents podcast, and then it was last November. It was last October. I met my friend Curtis through Instagram, and we do a gratitude and sobriety podcast. So he's technically 6 years sober now, and he brings in a whole new world of people. It's like, and then just 2 weeks ago, I started Gratitude and Movement with my co-host Laura. And so what I'm saying is like, I'm just trying to find the easiest way to have more conversations. And the amazing thing about having co-hosts is like, it's their world. They're bringing the people in, right? Like, it's Absolutely. Like they know the person, and then we have a conversation between the three of us where we share stories, productive accidents, reasons why we're grateful. Like it's all circumferencing, but it's a broader reach, more people, get more people involved.
So I also want to ask you something. What you're grateful for at the moment? What's the most positive thing that pops up right now in your life and bubble?
I'm grateful that my wife and I are healthy. I'm grateful we can sit here and have a conversation. I'm grateful for my coffee. I get to enjoy every day. Because you're asking me, I'll be a little more specific. In the mornings during my practice, I've been very focused on how do you appreciate like what you already like. I want to appreciate what I already have, like my everyday. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's very easy to appreciate the big things that come and go, but like to appreciate in the things, for example, my wife being so very good case in point. Every morning there's several things I hit. One is I say I'm grateful for seeing the show. The show is actually seeing the sunrise. The show is life. Like I remind myself every day that this is a gift because it is. Life is a gift. Now, some people might not want the gift, but waking up is a gift. It's not a give in, right?
I like this quote. I like the show. Life is the show. This is quite good. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I wake
So,
up. Yeah, well, let me. I was thinking. I was saying the show originally because I'm living in a place where I can see the sunrise. So it's like the idea was like I can see the show, but honestly, I'm happy when the sun doesn't rise because it's less. I'm going to take it for granted, right? Like if the sun, it's the same thing. If the sun rises beautiful every day, it becomes something. This is every day, but when it doesn't, I still notice it, right? I'm very
mm,
aware. Go ahead, though. That's,
what I liked is the so-called banalities, like the coffee. So the small things. And I had when you mentioned sobriety and health issues and so on, as my parents contracted COVID, I found it out later, so I was the first to know about it, but they maybe had it before. And however, and we were quite concerned. My sister, my brother, and I, we were really concerned, as you can imagine. And as you said, and I know you the story also of your mom. One takes it for granted, maybe, or the fear, the danger that you take the contact with your beloved ones and the existence, the very existence for granted is here, the danger. And this reminded us really, my sister, my brother, and me, that this huge gift of having parents, of having wife, kids, and that their very existence is a huge show. This was one of the major, but it is also banality because I should know it even more, even without the whole COVID thing. But this one was a major takeaway, so to speak. And right now I'm in the home of my parents. I grew up in this house, but I live in Graz, in the city. And being here and being in this house full of life still is really a huge gift. And on my birthday, I'm really, really grateful for it.
That's beautiful. Thanks. Oh yeah, for sure. No, I love that. I that's something that came out this last year too. Part of my practice in the morning, speaking more to the morning routine, the morning gratitude practice, is I literally started going through a checklist in my head and saying, I am grateful for this person's health. I have and initially I think it started with 3 or 4 people. I would talk about my father and my girl, who my wife is, and my grandmother. Like I just think health, and I go through a checklist of these people, and it allows me again just to. So every morning I have, I think it's 20 people. I just go through a checklist in my head going, and I have, and myself's a part of that too. I start with Chris, I go, I'm grateful I'm healthy. I'm grateful Rosie's healthy, or her mom and dad are healthy, and I go through, it just reminds me I've got so many, not only are they healthy, right? But the reminder is I've got some really loving people in my life, right? Like not only are they healthy, but these are people that love me, that are in my life, that I'm fortunate enough to spend time with. And I feel like this last year allowed me to focus more on that. And it comes down to, the amazing thing is, even without a pandemic, like the fact that we're a lot, take away that still life is very precious, and anything can happen any given day, right? Like I guess what this last year made it more evident that anything can happen any given day, right? Because, I think about, I just turned 42 also, and I think, isn't it amazing 42 years, how much I've moved around this world, right? Just talking about moving, right? And driving in cars and this and that. And I've never gotten a serious accident, I mean, just not, you haven't fallen, been hit by a car, like haven't, you know what I mean? Like just the entropy of the reality of life. And then you think time, like all the places you've been, all the movement, going up and down stairs, right? Like anything could happen, but I've been so fortunate. I'm at 42 and I'm healthy, and I, all my joints work, and I can walk, and I don't have, just these things. It's a gift, because it's not a given.
It's a gift. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And what, I want to bring some, not pessimistic here, but I'm not prone to the philosophy that COVID is a humankind changing event and everything's going to be better because we appreciate life the more. And so humans are a weird species, and they are not changing, and they are not learning as they should be or supposed to be. But what is really what we can see, that we are part of nature, as you said. We can be hit by lightning.
Right.
We are subject to gravity. We are subject to bacteria. And I did also a lot of backpacking before I met you on my research trips. I did during as a student. I was backpacking in Peru, in Australia, in Canada. Often a solo traveler. Yeah, and as you said, there were so many moments where something could happen, and being reminded once in your life in the midst, we are quite in the midst, hopefully, of our lives. As you
Right.
are 32, 42, also being reminded that this very symbolic date, that you're part of nature, that it's not a given, is quite an important banality, but a productive banality. Yeah, we are part of the nature, right? And we should respect the rules, the logic, and we cannot humans cannot change everything and form everything as they want to. And this is for me. I grew up, as you said, I had a very happy childhood and always protected. I had some hard and mean periods as a young professional. I took apprenticeships and some hard, tough jobs. But overall, I had really a productive and happy um, childhood and early adult life. But right now, there were a few minor health issues also in my body right now. But given this huge thing that is going on right now, and this philosophy of being part of nature, knowing that
Oh, looks like Flo just popped off. That's interesting. Gonna give him a couple of seconds here. So I'm not Flo, so I guess let me take that off there. I'm Chris. So Flo was talking and the audio just cut out, and I'm hoping that he's gonna pop back on. That was that almost looked like a computer battery dying, because that looked like that was like a screen being shut off. So how long can I riff here? I think I could riff a little bit longer. So Flo and I were talking, about appreciating different things, and I was actually thinking about something I read this morning that I'm going to go ahead and share while hopefully he's coming back on. So Flo was just talking about health and stuff like that, right? We were talking about not taking things for granted. And I actually was reading something really great this morning that I'm happy to share with you all. So it's right here. So I was reading my friend Russ Terry's book here. So this there's the section here, the chapter 4, I believe it's 3 or 4. Where is that here? Chapter 3 was written by Mr. Collins here. It says, "My gratitude means everything." So I'll just read a little bit of this, and most likely I'll have to edit this whole thing because he disappeared. But here we go. Oh, hold on. There we go. All right, and we're back.
okay. So
Did your computer turn off?
I don't know. I didn't touch it. However,
Okay.
so it's an accident. Maybe we can make some productive out of it.
It's okay. Yeah. Let's. So you were in the middle of. We were just talking about health, and
Yeah. Yes, that's this huge banality that I'm part of nature. It's in some way helpful. So I have some minor. I always was the sporty guy, happy guy, and right now there are some other minor health issues, medium range health issues. But after this event with COVID and contracting and all this this emotional fear because of my parents, and you're taking it not more easy, but it helps me that I say to myself every morning, okay, it's not given, it's a gift. And knowing that I'm subject to nature, to bacteria, to illnesses, to your cells are not not renewing at that age that quickly. It's okay. So I going to see my doctors more often for this check. I never did this too often. I never did this actually. I hardly took my blood pressure and all these things. So one takeaway is going once a year to the overall health check, and taking this as a gift, and framing it as a gift. So this is helpful.
I think I completely agree with you. I've been working with an idea of, basically like like suicide prevention, right? So like, I'm trying to think of like, how do you get gratitude into like schools or colleges? Like, how do you, the thing is like, they have to have a box they check off. And unfortunately, talking about gratitude is not a box that gets checked off. Like, that's not what it is. But what I'm saying is like, the suicide prevention, like, a straight up question to let somebody know if they're actually thinking about, if this is a straight up question, you go, are you grateful for your life? Right. So the great thing about that question is either answer it says a lot. So you go, yes, then we have something to start from, right? We have something like, okay, well, you have this, but if you ask that question and someone says no, then you can have a real discussion, right? Because they're coming to you from a real honest place, letting you know, I don't value my life, which is a suicidal place. That's a place of, if you don't value your life, then you can wait for taking it, So I think the question, are you grateful for your life, is a really powerful question. And either answer is good, because it's going to come, whatever you get is going to be such an honest thing that's going to allow a real conversation to happen.
Yeah, it opens also the negative answer opens a lot of inroads for improving things, for starting a process. And yes, but I also encountered in my friends and relatives encountered cases where there is crisis, either cancer, but also emotional and psychological crisis. And I found out, talking with these people that I love, and I'm grateful for every talk, that you cannot imagine how the world, the colors of the world, how they perceive emotions, feelings. But what is helpful, I just recently read in a German newspaper or magazine the metaphor, but it's a scientifically based metaphor, that life is a U. So at the beginning, as I mentioned, childhood and positive emotions, when you're brought up in a beautiful and loving, caring family, you're starting with the U. You have positive emotions, childhood, birthdays. There are some difficult moments, embarrassing, but you're starting with a lot of euphoria and love. And then in our age, often between 35, 45, and the famous midlife crisis, you're hitting the bottom of the U often. And I see this, and I notice it in my body. It's more the physical aspects. Sometimes I may be tired, but others have psychological issues at this U. And in this article, the scientist said, in the age, it's getting up. Although your cells are not renewing, although you forget things, although you're not that sporty person you used to be, maybe you have experience, you have experienced love, you look at your kids, at your beloved ones, you have the memories and experience and the maturity to know that this is just a crisis. This is not your life. This is a you bottom point, And this was quite stunning. The article, I loved it. And I sent it to a few folks, and that's the only thing I cannot give advice, in psychological issues, but I can say, look, for so many people, it is a you, and the bottom, it will go up. It can go up. So a crisis is not your life. So this is also a takeaway that I, as a historian, can give. I cannot. I'm not a natural. I'm not a epidemiologist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a politician. But when you look at inspiring life stories, you can see this. It's
true.
and you have to go through, you muddle through whatever. It's also allowed to despair at certain moments, but it's not your life. So this is one that came into my mind recently, and I hope that although there's a lot of polemic and vitriol going on in social media, that things like you do and all these experiences, that this will be one of the lessons learned, so to speak, of our 1-2 year episode that we are living through right now.
I've been saying something very similar to that, and I like how you were saying this is not your life, and it's the idea like nothing's permanent. Nothing is permanent. The spectrum of emotions. Life is not one line, like you said. It's up and down. You're not always going to be happy. You're not always going to be sad. You're not always going to be. But bottom line is any given year there are ups and downs. Any given day there are ups and downs, right? Like you're just going to feel these different emotions, and it's the reality of just knowing, like you just said, like this isn't your life, right? So when you get to a low point, knowing that this isn't it, like this isn't eternity, like this isn't the rest of my days, this is just a fluctuation of what's going on. Give it a little more time, the sun will come up, or find other ways to it's just it's an important lesson that people know, like this isn't a moment in time is not your life. It's just a point. It's just a point in your life. It's a day. It's
also some sort of banality, but you have to keep it in mind. So we are part of nature. We cannot form everything into a aseptic and perfect modern techno world. And we are also, it's just a moment. It's a puzzle. And concerning psychological things, everyone lives through embarrassment. I on my own, everybody knows it. There are moments where you really say, wow, I would like to cancel it or whatever. And what I really love is the concept of the CV of failures that many interesting or important people already have penned. This is a collection of embarrassing moments or failures of people that are often very productive, very loved, and also very respected. And most of the folks think, wow, they're so perfect and they're so they are on the right side of life. But when you read this CV of failures, that where they applied, where they completely did not reach their goals, where they had embarrassing moments, this is so relaxing to find out about this. So I would not say that I'm a hyper important person or VIP. Absolutely not. I just wrote a few books and I do some work sometimes in public, but I had many moments where I really failed. So as a researcher, I often write some papers, and I hope that I get some funding for new projects. And then there's a jury or whatever. And sometimes you already have penned a book, and then you need some further funding for the production or for the editorial work or for the publishing and so on. And you already put in so much energy, and there's some anonymous reviewer and he's completely destroying you. I had this few times in my life as a researcher, a historian, and maybe I will also one day come up with the CV of failures, because I think it's also a cathartic moment. So when you say, okay, it was a failure, look, but I reached some other goals, and this is also interrelated with the productive accidents. So often, if I would not have failed at that time, I would not have made the very, very beautiful experience the other time. So today I can really say for some failures I'm grateful, and sharing this with other people maybe is very, very important. So I even remember one point. A few years ago, I had really some successes. I got the prize for one of my books. I had media coverage in the German newspapers and quite respected media coverage and good reviews on my first two books. And I thought, wow, it's like a rocket right now. Yeah, you have to stay on this ship. And then not a string, but two or three negative reviews and negative reports came in, and I did not get funding. I stuck a little bit in this whole project. And right now, the jobs that I do, and I got another project then, it was the right thing for my life, the right way to go, actually. So the failure or the small catastrophe, I was really destroyed these days, was productive and helpful. And it was supposed to be like that. And sharing this is maybe important, that out of this really hard times, there can be a new way that is even the better one, but you do not know this at the very moment. This is the hard thing. You cannot see through, but as we said before, you're getting more mature, and when you're through this game a few times, 2 times, 3 times, you know that it's okay. It's also a banality. It's okay. You fail and you stand up and try another way. But it takes some years. And sometimes maybe people, when they cannot exchange their losses and talk about their losses and hardships, they think they're the only loser, or it's their error, their mistake. It's not.
Yeah, I've been talking about that idea too. It's unfortunate. Okay, it's basically, when we're in a situation, we end up labeling it, right? So it's like, it's easy to label things good or bad just because that's the way it is, right? But honestly, that's where we screw everything up, is actually labeling it, because we get to decide, what it all means, right? You get to decide in the moment. You're making a decision how you see whatever happens, because it's all up to how we perceive it. So, for example, if this is like an old proverb, and I've said this several times, but there's the proverb is basically, there's a man who has a farm, and he's having to take care of his fields, and then one day somebody gives him a horse, and the person's like, "Isn't this good?" And the farmer goes, "Well, we'll see," and then the next thing you know, his son's out there with the horse doing the fields, right? And the horse kicks his son and breaks his son's leg. So they're like, "Well, this is a really bad thing that happened," right? And he goes, "Well, we'll see." And then the next thing is, the war breaks out, and they come around. They're like, "We have to take all the able-bodied men to go off to war."
Cool.
Well,
wow.
So this is good, right? And the farmer goes, "Well, we'll see," because bottom line is, it's like, it's honestly, you know what I mean? Like, you never know what's going to come next. Like, in the moment, like you said, you don't really know where say it's a failure. Technically, we'll say you failed at this, but you don't know what that's going to lead you to. You don't know what those interactions with the storyline. I can look back on my life and say, I took some big freaking swings, man. And I struck out, just deep out, right? Like, terrible out. Like I basically had burned I've 2 times in my life, Flo, I've basically did the equivalent of taking the ship to the other country and burning the ship. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I put it all in, and it did not work out like I was it was not what I wanted. It was not what I was looking at, right? But this is my own formula. It's like, I call it gratitude cube. So basically, if you're in a grateful moment, if you're grateful right now, where you're at, you can actually look back at failures, and you can look back at the good and the bad. Absolutely. You can go, you know what? It's okay, because I am who I am right now in this moment because of that. And I love myself. So I'm grateful for it. That's the path, right? It's like the car might have ran out of gas, and that sucked, right? I've had that happen too at different places, but it's like, this is where we are. And if you appreciate where you are, you can go, I'm okay. This is okay. How I got here is fine.
Absolutely, yeah. And as I work also for the church, sometimes faith can help, or at least the metaphors of faith concerning all these psychological issues and emotions and negative feelings. And once a theologist said to me, when you open yourself, so when you're open-minded person, you're like a cross, you're open, but you're also vulnerable, because
Right.
you open your emotions. You're, hi, I'm Florian and I love you and blah blah blah, and then the cynics can hit you. That's true. But what I really like is also when you stay open after being hit, when you talk as we do in public about your positive moments, about your losses and negative moments, you're still open. Yeah, and this is the cathartic moment when we can in public say, I'm grateful also for the losses, because the story you just told about the farmer, it's also about this maturity thing. Like life is a U, the farmer is at the top of the other top of the U,
Right.
and with
Right.
maturity we'll see that. And I also had these moments a few times when I had difficult times, that an elder person told me, you wait a little bit, you're gonna see, and stay open. Don't close and become a cynic because you had one loss, or you faced a difficult opponent, or you didn't get a job. Stay open. And this is where the whole faith issue and the Christian metaphors are often helpful. So I'm very, very liberal. So I would not say that the Christianity is the only way to happiness. But people need narratives. They need small myths, like the story of the farmer. It's and what I think is that even it's better to stay open-minded after you're being hit on your open flank, so to speak, because on the long run you're bigger and stronger than the others. Because being a cynical, you have at one moment you have maybe a laugh, you have a small you score, but the open-minded guy or lady will prevail. And this tell always the elderly, they tell me this. Yeah, wait, like you said with your farmers, stay cool, stay happy, stay friendly, wait a little bit, you're gonna see everything. And it's not a banality. Once again, it's really it's helpful. So listen to the elderly. My mother, for instance, she's at our toilet here at the toilet here. The Canadians say toilet, right? Not the Americans. They say washroom.
Or
At our washroom,
bathroom.
bathroom, yeah. Or in Canada they say wash. I don't know. In the bathroom here, so bathroom and toilet. My mother has inspirational quotes. All they plastered it. She plastered it all over the place. When you sit there, it's a silent place, but you have 2 minutes, 5 minutes time to read a little bit, and there's so these small poetries and always there's something new when I come. So once a month or every 2 months we visit the place here of my parents, and I always discover a new quote. And with her perspective, with her view as a mature and happy person, you can learn a lot about this issue. Yeah, we'll see. Let's wait. Stay cool. Stay open-minded. Stay happy. Yeah, this is quite a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that your mom does that. That's amazing. That's a beautiful thing, putting messages different places. It's just reminders, right? It's like, you're going to be here. You're looking like, I've said this several times. I haven't done it, but you know, I should have something in the shower just to go, are you, remind, what are you grateful for? Like, honestly, in the shower, think about how many things are working when you take a shower, right? Not only is there water coming into your place, right? Like, that's pretty amazing, right? That is I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
we are in the top because we have water that comes in and it's health, it's like, that's something that's so easily taken for granted that
Yeah,
is on top, right? Like, that should be something that should, but
absolutely.
not only we have water coming in and it's not going to poison us, it can be hot or cold. But let's take the experience a step further. You're in the shower and you don't have to have help being there, right? Like, you can literally just be there, right? On top of that, you can feel the sensations, right, of the water, right? There's a feeling going on, and then your hands work well enough that you can, you have soap there. You have like there's there's soap, there's you know what I mean? Like you're literally all this stuff. There's so much like stuff to be grateful for just stepping into the shower, not only having the stuff in the water, but being able to do it, just physically do it. And I had a friend, always, I think about that a lot because I had a friend on the podcast whose mom had MS, and it's a chronicle. I don't know how to get into what it is exactly, but he said that he realized that he could either be angry about his mom having this disease, or he could just love it because it's who his mom was, right? And he was like, I love you, I love you, MS. And what he said he said his mom taught him so much just from growing up with her. And he said, when I can sit down and tie my own shoes, I have gratitude. He's like, when I can go and bathe myself, I have gratitude, and it was just so powerful to take something we would all look at as very negative, but yet there were positive things, right? It made him appreciate tying shoes. It made, you know what I mean? It made him love his mom, did not look at the disease, loved his mom, right? Like there was so much beauty in that, right?
So. Absolutely. And there were two small things that popped up when I listened to you right now. We had problems with warm water just right now, and we found a man, a technically versed man who is able to take care of it. I'm so grateful for having met him. So it's as you said, so the banality of having warm water again, and during COVID, I lost my smell and taste. Eating a pizza margarita after this, again, not like it's that 10 days I nearly smelled nothing. So you could put acid 1 centimeter before the nose and I smelled nothing. And afterwards it came back again slowly, and it was so great to get all this. And you see, I'm grateful for smelling and tasting the food that I eat every day. As this is not given. You're right. Huh? This is not given. Huh? And also the small moments. Once again, there are a lot of cynics because I work in a rather intellectual field in academia or academically minded people often, and small inspirational moments are often seen here as superficious or something, but that's not true. It's even if it's not always a complicated concept or sophisticated concept, when you read a small inspirational quote, it's like, a cushion. Even if it's only air inside, it softens your moment. It's come from, sometimes things come from the heart. And there's, in my field where I work, there's always a lot of intellect and you always take care about being sophisticated, and therefore it's so important, as we said a few times in this talk, to take care of the small, not banalities. It's emotionally sophisticated. It's maybe not always a developed concept, but reading when you're in the bus and commuting or whatever, and you're reading a small joke in the newspaper, or when this easy-minded, easygoing banalities and jokes, and this is so important to get us through, and people tend to forget that, I think.
Yeah, that comes back to this, things. Life is really about the little things. It's not, for example, the memories, like you're talking about, if you're on the bus or reading a joke or just having dinner with somebody that you love, these are these things that we can have all the time. That's where the gold is. Obviously, it's nice to go on vacation, and those are easy to remember because we're in new places. But that's not every day. It's finding the gratitude, you're like recalibrating yourself to appreciate your life. That's because that's where the everyday is where you live. That's where you live, and the recalibration is reminding yourself of all the good. I had a amazing author named Hector Garcia on a few weeks back, and I asked him. He's an author from Spain that lives in Tokyo, actually.
Cool.
But I asked him, like, what does gratitude mean to you? And he said, because he was very, like, you could tell he was thinking. He's like, it's when it's when I'm focusing on one negative thing, right? He's like I realize that I have one thing going wrong. He's like there's 99 things that are going right. And I had this image in my head where it's like the image of gratitude to him was when you decide to shift your head from focusing on the one negative thing to focus on the 99 things. You know, it's just that's what gratitude is, taking a moment to reflect that, again, back to like we said, right? All is not lost. This is just a moment, right? When we think about these things, it's like, so it's just the realization of this is not my life. This is one thing that's wrong. I've got a lot. I can reflect over here. I've got a lot to be grateful for. I've got a lot of things that are going right.
Absolutely, yeah. And there can be also some sort of positive fatality, you know. A year ago, we didn't know how the whole thing would turn out. Would it be, would we become zombies? I don't know, you know. It was really a hard moment and nobody knew. But even if it's unavoidable, if you cannot avoid it, you can live the very moment, you know. And when this started and the severe strict lockdown set in a year ago, for the first time, I took Netflix. So I never watched Netflix, but you spend more time with the family. The kids want to see something, and we discovered this positive fatality. And so, okay, I do not know what tomorrow, if the world stands in a year, I don't know, but we have this moment right now. We're here. We're healthy. We have we as a family are together, which is I cannot always spend that much time with my wife Katja that I would like to. During the home office periods and especially the first periods of the lockdowns, we spent more time with each other. And we could rediscover also aspects of our common life, and this is, yeah, as you said, it's negative things are around you, but you can have an ironic distance to it. Yeah, I like the Garcia moment you showed me. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, he's awesome, and yeah, it's just I liked, you know, you touched on, like, you know, this is I think most stress in most people's lives, like, I can't speak for all, is worrying about the future. It's stress of tomorrow, right? It's the what if, right? And the more that we can, and obviously you have to, you know, there's things going on, but the more we can train ourselves to say, I appreciate being here now, because this is all there is. It's literally is all there is. Back to our statement, right? Life's not guaranteed. Tomorrow's not here. Yesterday is gone. Today is actually right now is the only thing that is actually really happening. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is all there is. I hope there's a tomorrow, obviously. And I hope I'm going to have dinner, and, you know, but if I'm worrying about that, then I'm not actually here right now, right? If I'm thinking and worrying about what's happening tomorrow, I can't be present while I'm worrying about the future. And if I'm with people I love, you know, if I'm going to spend time to, like, sit here with you, Flo, I want to be here with you, right? Because this is, we're right here. This is where I want to be. I don't want to be anywhere else. You know, I don't want to waste your time. I want to be present. I want to remember this, you know.
Absolutely.
And and that's where, you know, gratitude is on. Gratitude is found in the moment, because you're actually thinking about what's in your life you're grateful for. It's right. You know, if you're worrying about tomorrow, you're not in a grateful state. Now, you can reflect on things in the past and be grateful, right? That's a good, healthy thing. You can think about those are memories that make you more present, you know, make you appreciate your life. But this is gratitude is all about the now, being present in the moment. That's why when I talk about, you know, sobriety and gratitude, when I talk about people, you know, alcohol or drug addiction, it's like when you're high or you're out of your mind, you have no memory. You don't even have memory. You know, you don't even remember it, right? It's just a high. You know what I mean? Like, you're not being present. You don't have memories in the present. You know, it's like that's an escape from the present. Honestly, don't get me wrong. I like to drink too, but it's like if an addict is escaping from the present moment, right? We're escaping into our addiction, whatever that is. Obviously, there's other addictions.
Yeah, escapism. Yeah,
it could be anything. But the moment is where life is, and the gift is now and being present for it. Because when we get back to memories, right? If we're going to remember this because we were here for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it feels like we came back around circle with all these ideas of the you and appreciating the day and being present, and just not taking life so seriously and realizing, nothing's
Yeah, absolutely.
permanent.
Yeah.
Everything's changing. I
And
remember one of my hardest times. I remember somebody looking at me and telling me, "This is not permanent." I remember that. So when we're saying this, I'm hoping, who knows, maybe somebody's going to hear it that needs to hear it.
yeah. And also one thing is, uh, as you figured out, and you know me for a few years right now, I'm more the optimist. But when I contracted COVID, I was concerned. I admit it. It's always good to talk in public about your weaknesses, um, and I was concerned about people I had contact with, and about my parents obviously, and I was reproachful also toward myself a little bit. First, I thought I was infecting them and so on, and then people showed up with exactly the philosophy you described right now. A friend of mine said, no, he's more interested in philosophy or also spiritual, let's say, being relaxed in a spiritual way. And he thought he had also contracted COVID, and I infected him. I didn't do, but he thought first at the very moment. But he said, I'm gonna relax, have a drink. I cannot change the PCR test.
Right.
Don't worry, Flo. And this was really a moment of weakness for me. But and not always you can be the one who motivates
Right.
and being reminded to your to the things that we figured out today by someone else when you have a moment where you cannot do this. This is also a great gift, and I'm grateful for this also. Yeah? And I will send him the link to the video.
I love that. Yeah, no, it's to have people that are calm around you. It's calming, right? That's what it comes down to. He was around you, and he was just letting you know, I'm not worrying about it because it's what it is. That's the more we can. Even with myself, it's like I try the hardest not to worry about things I have no control over.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's like, because I feel like that's where most people, or at least I feel like in the past where I was really worried, right? It's when I was built into like controlling something I was out of, it was not in my control. And
Absolutely.
that's where the, things where your head can just go spinning and it's a bad thing. But it's like, if something's going to happen, I'm only in control of what I can control, which is how I'm going to react to it. Like, what am I going to do about it? But if it's out of my hands, it's like, okay, let's enjoy right now because I can't do anything about it. It's like your friend says, like, well, either the test is positive or negative. I'm gonna go ahead and have a drink, right? Because, like, see that.
There's a nice joke. He was the one with the Kentucky whiskey. I sent you once again, a few months ago. I sent you a pic of it. Was on his balcony. what an accident! Incident, positive incident. It was exactly the same guy. Thomas, hi Thomas. He will see it then.
Awesome.
Yes, and yes, as you said, I do a lot of research. I issue or I'm editor of magazines or books and so on, and I work in a cultural field. And my head keeps spinning. No, I want to understand the illness and stuff. And I did too much research on the internet because you want to find out about something you cannot change. So it gave me some faint feeling of control. But my friend reminded me, stay cool and also my wife, Katya, I should have listened to her more at the time. Do not do too much research on it. You cannot change it. Fill your body with positive energy, and that's the best way to get through. It will come, what come will come. And sometimes you need these anchors and angles, different angles in your life to get back on the track you're supposed to be, or you should be, or think to be. And what I'm a little bit concerned is all these folks in the internet who are embarking on dark conspiracy theories about all this negative. So it gives you a vain feeling of control about something you cannot control. It is better to go out, to meet people, whatever, or meet people virtually like we do when you can not allowed to do it. And yes, therefore, as I already said, a project like yours is so important. I really appreciate it, and it's not a given to have friends when you open up your Facebook feed in the morning when you're commuting, and you see, okay, political argument here and shitstorm there, and you have a friend where consistently you see positive content. That's I really love this, and therefore I'm really proud for being part, for having met you, and staying in your emotional bubble for all these years.
Thanks, man. I really do appreciate you saying that, because I definitely put a lot of stuff out. Unless somebody says something, I never know. You never know unless somebody voices if they can feel that. And I really, it means a lot to me you saying that. I really do appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Because I do a lot, and I just don't. I never. I don't hear it back as much as I'd like. How's that sound? But the cool thing is I don't do it because I need to hear about it. I do. I consider all this I'm doing, it's like my gratitude art. I have gratitude art. We create gratitude art together, and what I do is I create it with other people and I put it on the wall. You know what I mean? And then the cool thing is occasionally I'll talk with people and they'll go, I've seen your gratitude art. Like you just said that. You basically that's what you just told me. Like, I'm looking through my stuff and I see what you're doing. I see your gratitude art, Chris. Like, and that means a lot to me, because that's it. Like you just said, just that little thing. Just say, for example, just in a feed sense, right? In a Facebook sense, somebody is seeing that. It is for a moment going to allow them to remind them. It's going to take them out of, I'm sitting sometimes in between a lot of negativity because of whoever's wall it is, right? But yeah, I'm on that wall and it is being seen. This is positivity. Absolutely. Here. You're reading the word gratitude, right? Like this, if you want to step in a moment, this would give you a little bit of that, which is all I can hope for.
Yeah. So. Yes. And especially all this media thing. Yeah. I never embarked on the ship that says, wow, it's getting completely out of control and it's becoming a dystopia. And when you look back, I'm a historian, when you look back in mankind's history, always when there's new media popping up, Gutenberg's book press, and that at the first time, people are always, it's too much for them to digest this new media, and after a few years, or maybe half a generation or a generation even, people get used to it, and there are negative and positive aspects in every media and every concept and every technology that is popping up. But when we see all these beautiful moments in between, and we stick to them, and you see that for instance, during the pandemic, how many relatives could meet at least in a virtual way, and grandparents seeing their kids, at least kissing them on the screen, it's better than nothing, and therefore your work is so important, that when people think, because all this political vitriol and the populism and the stuff that goes on right now, also in Europe, it's not just the discussions are the same here in some way. You're reminded every day that there are other forces, so to speak, and I think being part of the solution, even if the whole big picture is not shifting towards the positive side. You see that in ecology, because we did in our program with the Catholic university chaplaincy, with all the students, they are quite into the ecological question right now, and Greta Thunberg, and creating a better place for tomorrow. Even if you cannot steer the ship around, you are spiritually part of the solution. You're steering your own ship around. You're having a more meaningful life. You're doing you behave in another way. You're having more real contacts. You're more sporty because you're not taking the car every day. And so whatever the field is, politics, ecology, psychology, you need the small things, you know. You need the small things, and you can be always part of a small thing. And this is really a thing that I like, even today and tonight here. It's getting dark here. It's already dark here in Austria.
I know we got a couple more minutes here. I wanted to say I loved how you pointed out about people being able to video chat. And again, like going back to perspective, right? Let's think about, if you go back 50 years, right? Like, okay, we had telephones. Okay. So at that point, you go further back though, people were just sending telegrams, right? You think about communication, just think about communication in the last 100 years, right? Like, maybe I can't physically be up next to you right now, but we can look at each other and talk to each other. Like, this is the future. Like, how amazing is that? That is so, and if that is all there could be, opposed to people living thousands, I mean, it's so much more. Yeah. It's so much more than it ever was, right? So even though we can't come have lunch with each other, if we can get on a video chat, honestly, I think this is much more personal than if we were to meet in person at a coffee shop. Because if we were sitting in a coffee shop, there would be noise everywhere. There'd be people moving around. There'd be distractions. This is like, if you want to have a connection and focus, like, this is game on. Like, this, it does not get any better than this. This technology we have, it's a gift. And you think about how bad things have been, not being able to see people, but then you have this, right? You can't, this is, it's phenomenal.
Absolutely. And when during my work as historian, another thing that comes into my mind right now, I'm so connected with other researchers, not only professional researchers. People are mailing me. Yeah, I found it, because we put together with a colleague in my last book, in our last book project, we put on a database with people, 500 people, Austrians who fled Austria in Nazi time and went to the US, and we found out about their wartime biography, and we put their name on the database. And just 2 days ago, a relative, a next of kin, texted me, emailed me, and I will soon send him or her a few records on her grandfather or whatever. And this is so beautiful. You have so enriching moments thanks to and people tend to forget that, and maybe the most emotional moment as researcher where you can have an impact on the life of people with technology was in 2012, 3 years before we met each other. In St. Louis, there's a National Personal Record Center. So the personal files of military is there. Not the operational files, the personal files. That means very special data on the very soldier. And there was a war babe case, so-called war babe case. A nearly 90-year-old lady from Austria had a child with a former GI, a parachutist, an American GI, in the aftermath of the Second World War. He was stationed in Austria. US were the liberating and occupying force, and they fell in love and they had a child. And he promised everything to her, and then somehow he changed his mind and he left Europe and returned to the US, and completely every trace of him disappeared for dozens of years. And exactly in 2012, by chance, I was in the Personal Record Center just 3 days. Exactly in these 3 days, via email, my professor got an inquiry. This very lady, 90-year-old lady, is looking for her former lover because her son, her common son, wants to find out. He's already 60 right now, and he wants to find out. And I was in my whole 1 month research trip. I was only 3 days there, and exactly at the end of the first day, I got this email and the best thing is, I did some pre-research in the hostel or bed and breakfast, and then I went to the records room and to the research room next day, and they immediately grasped my data and said, okay, it's a war babe case, this is prioritized, and blah blah blah. And after 20 minutes they had the guy. So they found out who is the father. unfortunately, he already died, but he had kids, and
Okay.
so half siblings, so to speak,
Mhm.
or how do you say in American?
Mhm.
So the son, the 60-year-old son back in Austria, found out a photo. He got data. Who is my father? Where did he live? Where was he in the World War? And so on. And he found out that he was a parachutist. He landed in parachuted into Normandy. It was a
Oh,
special
wow.
life. And although he it was tough, he left his son and never saw his son. He discovered a new family, half siblings or half sisters, so to
Mhm.
speak, in America. He found out who his father was, and this was only by chance and by media. And I sent it back to Europe at the very moment with email or internet devices. And when I came back after my research trip, the 90-year-old mother and the son of the GI, they welcomed me, and I was invited. And the son, this was really hard moving, said, Mr. Trausnick, in school always the other lads talked, my father is a plumber and he's cool, and my father does, and I could never speak of my father because I do not know
Mhm.
him. And I said, right now, when you're going to a beer at the pub, you can tell your buddy, my father parachuted in the Normandy. What
Normandy.
did your father do? And this is, and this was really a touching moment. Yeah. And as you said, so without internet, without email, without all these productive accidents, that would not have happened. And for the family, for the identity of this man, it was very important.
That's beautiful, man. I love that story. I love how you found the gratitude of being able. It's just the fact that you were there at that moment and you got to take care of this, and you saw what that meant, and you understood where that was going, and just appreciating that you were part of in the mix, right? That you could be the source of giving this information to this man, and just that's amazing. I mean, again, like the time we're living in, right? Like you said, this is there's so much to be grateful for, and so many cool things that people we can contact to, we can learn, and just stay connected with. And this has been great, man. I really enjoyed talking with you. Time's really flown by, and
Me too.
I really
You can imagine.
appreciate the conversations. I really loved. We had some really great themes, and it all sparked because I saw. I want to thank Facebook for. I want to thank you for putting us staying in contact. But because you put your birthday on Facebook, I got to go. Oh, look, Flo's having a birthday. This is my excuse to talk to him. No,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not like,
often like that.
yeah. I was like, this is my excuse to reach out to him and have a conversation and give a little reflection, and we get to talk about the past and the future, and it's been really wonderful, man. So I want to thank you for your time and wish you a massive happy birthday.
The gratitude is on my side, bro. I really loved it that you approached me, and it's so simple. I'm entering this room, and we see each other face to face. It's so beautiful. Great. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm Chris with Flo, just reminding you, everybody, they've got a lot to be grateful for. And we're also reminding you that whatever you got going on right now, it's not permanent, right?
Absolutely. Live the moment.
That's right. Live the moment. All right. Everybody take care.